Tonight we have M.K. Asante in the house. Mr. Asante is an award-winning author, filmmaker, hip-hop artist, and professor. He, too, understands the power of the written word to change lives. His essays have appeared in the New York Times and USA Today. His new memoir, Buck, is a coming-of-age story about his life in Philadelphia, or as he says, Killadelphia, in the 1990s. This memoir is by turns lyrical, brutal, intellectual, and a story about original. The streets, a story about family, a story about redemption. And yet, education sometimes seemed to get in your way, so I was hoping that you would talk about that.
Yeah, well, school got in my way, not education. And that's different. I think this book is about education. It's about miseducation. It's about re-education. It's about self-education. It's about street education. And it's about the difference and the distance between school and education. And so for me, education, you know, I believe that the world is a university, and that's kind of what I learned in this book. My teachers came from all walks of life, you know what I mean? They didn't look like teachers most of the time, you know? They were on the corner, they were in the barbershop, you know, they were on the streets, you know. There was a guy on the street one day, a homeless man, who told me, he said, "Do you know what soul is, young man?" And I was, you know, out there in the streets, and I said, "Soul Train?" You know, he said, "Nah, soul is the graceful survival against impossible circumstances." You know, every black kid that I know, and not even black kids, little white kids, if you're from the city, not even in the city anymore, mostly every young person has hip-hop Tourette's. You know what I mean? You know what hip-hop Tourette's is? When I was walking up wherever I was walking just a minute ago, I had the song in my head and it just comes out. The bars just come out of me. I explained it in the book. Maybe because it's in the opening, so I'll read from the opening. I've got a quote from Ovid as the epigraph. It says, "Be patient and tough. Someday this pain will be useful to you." That's the opening quote. Okay, so this is the opening of the book. Chapter 1, The Fall. Each chapter has a different name. The fall in Killadelphia. Outside is the color of cornbread and blood. Change hangs in the air like the sneaks on the live wires behind my crib. Me and my big brother Uzi in the kitchen. He's rolling a blunt on top of the source. The one with Tyson on the cover, rocking a kufi, ice grilling through the gloss. Uzi can roll a blunt with his eyes closed. He cracks, splits, busts. The rawest crews in Philly are all 3 letters, he tells me. I read the cover through the tobacco guts and weed flakes. The rebirth of Mike Tyson. I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just trying to survive in this world. Awaken crews in a rude fashion, on the ass like Mike Tyson at a beauty pageant. That's one of the lyrics that we're talking about that are sprinkled out the book. So there's a random hip-hop lyric that just, bam, in the center of the book. And then I explain it. I do this. I spit lyrics to songs under my breath all day, every day. The bars just jump out of me, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. It's like hip-hop Tourette's.
Swagger on 100,000 trillion. Swagger on 100,000 trillion. Swagger on 100,000 trillion. Swagger on 100,000 trillion.
Got your pros in your pocket? You do? You know what your pros are, right? Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to take the best and try to send that to him, and maybe that will entice him to come to our little school on the west side of Indianapolis, Indiana, 46221. Okay? With that being said, I can't confirm nor deny that, but we'll certainly try. Any other format, I'm just not, I don't know, okay? I would prefer that when you come to the front, eye contact as possible. Talk to us, okay? Engage us.
Okay, so in the beginning, the alter ego tell us about, we'll start off with them in their house, and how the friends come and they say that they automatically, like the book automatically starts off with trouble. They want to go joyriding and stuff. And in the book, Milo explains how he looked up to his brother, and even though he's 12 and his brother was 16, yeah, that he still wanted to do this stuff that Uzi does, which is his brother, and then it shows like in the other chapters they like explain how Malo's mom is sick in at a hospital, and how Uzi and Malo's dad Chaka, they don't have a good relationship. Okay, so in the climax it's still Chaka leaves the family, but they realize like they didn't need him, but they really did need him because Milo still was growing up, so he needed a father figure in his life. And since he just walked out the life, he had to become the man of the house, and school wasn't really going from Milo. So he joined the gang and started dealing. He joined UPK. And he'd come home and see his mama like crying, she's fucking her sadness, like she's not taking pills and all that stuff. And when he asked her, like, did she need anything, she said to die. So that made Mama feel bad. He had no choice but to start like getting some money for her and them so they'll be alright. Then he ended up having to get a girlfriend, Nia, and then she realized like she told him they had to make a choice to pick him on the streets, and he chose the streets. And then later on in the story, he goes to the Greek, and that night his best friend Amir get killed. And since he already exposed to so much based on the book at a young age, this like forms him to be tough and strong and harden up. And then the quote I put at the bottom is what Nia said to him before they broke, well not before they broke up, but while they was dating. She said, love is learning the song of someone's heart and singing it to them when they forget. Then that one is with Milo Day walking out.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so as Milo still, he's more in the over Amir's death, like his cartoon book, what he'll be thinking about him, because Amir gave him this chain, and before Amir died, like, he was telling like who you did on your relationship with his daddy, because he was killed as a daddy. And so Milo would think about that here and there, and when Milo was dealing, he owed some money to this drug dealer named Phone, and he ended up finding out he couldn't pay the money back due to problems with his mama when they did anything about into it. And so he goes to Texas with his friend Ryan, and we're gonna get out that his mama is in the hospital again. And even though they're not talking, he feel like you should be there for her because nobody else is there for her. And so in the story, like, you can tell Milo starting to mature, because like usually be with girls all the time, but in Texas, you know, they had a girl there and he didn't want to be none of it, just kept thinking about Mia. So then Milo go back to Philly, talk to his mom, promise he's gonna go back to school for her. So basically like he's starting to like realize he wants his life together. And you can feel Amir was pressed to call his daddy, and they end up fighting and stuff because Milo real mad at him because he just walked out his life and he left them there to him and his mom. And basically the daddy didn't see how his mama was, but Milo did. He didn't like that. So in the rise of action, Milo is like going okay once the city, and like you see on the news that Dawn and Damien are going back to jail, and then a new school like is different for him because they welcome him. And he started to like then like it took him a while to open up because they was making him write and stuff. He started to like it that they like showing that they care, and everybody like going around the circle and talking about themselves. And it's something that other schools didn't do because they didn't really care about it. They was like really they only want to pay. So overall the story, Amina, she got her happiness back when she see Milo going to school, and she started back her own dance studio. And seeing Amina happy, Uzi's letters and communicating back with her father and Mia brings happiness to Milo. So the quote I put at the bottom was from the book. It said, this was when he was in school, he couldn't stop reading, like he was obsessed with reading, he couldn't look down to set. Now I see why reading was illegal for black people during slavery. I discovered that I'm thinking words. The more words I know, the more things I can think about. Reading was illegal because if you limit someone's vocabulary, you wouldn't get thought. So you can't even think freedom because they don't have the language. Then the resolution, Milo still like he still reads, and the more he open up his mind, the more like the more he reads, the more he opens up his mind to the world. He starts to see stuff different. And he visits, like him and Mia are back on talking to her, so he visits this poetry place where and she ended up writing his name on the paper. And he ended up going and speaking his poems and stuff. And I feel like that was like a resolution because like in the beginning of the book, nobody could make Milo do nothing. Like he wouldn't talk in front of other schools, in front of other people. And like, and when he started going to Crestfield, he didn't want to really freaking talk to them. But like now, like he went up there with no hesitation. And then he graduated from Crestfield, and he was happy to see his mom and dad sitting together. And then lastly in the book, him and the dating just went by. At the end of it, the book shows the world not just as it is, but as it could be and should be. They connect me to everything that's ever happened and everyone who's ever lived. Thank you.
So I chose to do the setting. Just gave a quick little intro. And a story about its setting, and this one's no exception. State streets of Philadelphia provide both an interesting and deep place for the story to take place and unfold. And each little aspect of the setting has an impact on characters, whether lasting or temporary. First and foremost, Philadelphia. This is by far the biggest portion of the setting, because it's where he grows up, where he matures, and where he ultimately makes the mistakes that will define him. Now, there are a few particular places I picked. The corner of 10th and Godfrey, for example. That's where Milo gets initiated into the gang, and also where we see Uzi's old friends develop. change in character. Starting out as gangsters, turning into members of the Lord's Vertical Ministries, and then just becoming residents of J Street.
Amen. Okay.
Then there's the Garden of Eden, otherwise known as Bones Basement, which acts as the catalyst for Marlowe's dealing days to begin. And then J Street itself, acting as the point where Marlowe realizes that he's got to learn to associate with better people, and ultimately see the impact that he might have had on the city.
Is this your visual for what J Street might look like?
Yeah, I imagine it's some kind of back alley sort of deal. Not the kind of place you'd want to get near at any point. Did you gather that from an implication made by the author or the characters? Are you inferring this? And if so, what evidence do you have? Yeah, it's not exactly much of an inference. It's more of an association.
Okay.
Sort of a similarity, if you will. Just like you wouldn't want to go into a back alley at night, you probably wouldn't want to be running around on J Street. And then there's drugs and crime, which I pretty much combine into a single slide, because they ultimately tie into each other in the story. Now, it's no big shock that the streets are full of crime, alright? There are good people out there, but at the same time, you don't want to let your guard down, especially in Philadelphia. Now, Uzi ran with a gang, we all know this, and Marlowe, seeing that Uzi was his role model growing up, felt sad when he had to go to Arizona and got in prison. So he started hanging out with his old friends, which led to his initiation into the gang. And with Chaka leaving, Marlowe had become the man of the house, and as such, saw drug dealing as a way not to be broke. It was a way for him to make some quick cash and probably support the two of them. And there are the random acts of violence that occur daily on the streets, one in which resulted in Amir's death. And then there's Ted Cooper's addiction.
Where did it lead to right there?
Well, let's see. It led to Marlowe getting involved in a deal that they had to make, namely to get their fix, which led to an argument in the backseat of Marlowe's car, leading to Ted getting stabbed by Scoop, which led to his arrest. And there's the educational system. Another element of the story is the relationship between young black men and the school system in general. Schools Marlowe found himself in had some effect on him, even if it was just a minor one. Foes, for example, he gave distrust towards poverty, which contributed to his gang activity. That and his older brother being gang. Fells, it continued this streak of bad behavior, and it kind of reinforces negative attitude about students. Considering just like Foes, the teachers really didn't have any control over the classes, and they didn't really care. Fred acted as a turning point, changed his perspective of schools, helped find a love for writing, and it ultimately put him back on the right track.
How so?
Heading to Fred he learned about reading, learned about the power of knowledge, ultimately found that the more he learned, the better person he could be, and it ultimately acted as a way for him not to be on the streets. Which you had Chaka mentioned in earlier chapters. Chaka, nearly loveless marriage, where Chaka would be working long hours of the day, and she would be left home to herself, mostly writing in her journal. Then there's Marlowe's family's anger towards his father after he left, which were changed after he got bailed out of jail towards the end of the story. Then there's Uzi's flight to Arizona, which led to his subsequent imprisonment in an Arizona prison. Then there's Marlowe's sister being put in an asylum because of her hallucinations regarding the neighbors. Now, I also made some entrances in the story. I kind of thought there was an unregulated police force throughout the story. First point in which I saw this was the flashback, where Malo mentioned about a point in which he and Uzi were younger, and they saw smoke and fire off on the distance because the police dropped explosives on a whole city block. I don't remember correctly if it was a drug bust or what have you, but I do recall that it was something of that nature. And there was a matter in which Malo was arrested, being roughly tossed into the cell and being referred to as a piece of, well, I think we all know where that one went. Then there was Money Rules the Streets. This was mainly focused around Chapter 20 and ultimately acted as a critical juncture for the story. In Chapter 20, Malo learns that money has a lot of influence. It's not even simply monetary, it's also a golden ticket in a way. You can buy everything from cars, clothes, freedom, and something else if you remember the quote. And then there's a quote from Jade, who, upon seeing him rolling around in Scoop's ride, left this little bit of knowledge on him. Are like bank accounts. Without money, they don't generate interest. Meaning the more money you have, the more influence you have on them. That class kind of pulled together. So I thought I would throw them in here because they're a pretty big important part of the story. Now, there's me with lost my identity. In the beginning of the book, I'll find a series of diary entries titled Letters to Carol, which were written by me. Carol was the original name, but it had to change the moment she married Chaka, as did the rest of the families. The nature of these diary entries, it's clear that she wasn't the same person that she used to be. She became overweight and depressed compared to the dancer in 133. She's now waddling in sorrow. Now, there's freedom and knowledge. In Chapter 40, Malo has a realization regarding knowledge. And while it's forbidden for slaves to be educated in any manner possible. Next elaborates on this further by stating, reading was illegal. If you let a phone vocab, you must take off. You can't take a freedom because you don't have the language to. Meaning, if somebody doesn't learn, that means they can't conceive of things. If they don't learn what freedom is, then they won't question why they don't have it. And that's the end.
I chose option A, and I decided to do the evolution of Malo. As just a small introduction, Malo, he's the main character of both the memoir, and throughout this book, you see him go through many different stages of life. In the beginning, you see him as a young, naive 12-year-old who obviously looks up to his older only sibling, Uzi, who is 16. And they live in the rough city that they call Philadelphia, which is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But we're just going to start from the beginning with his evolution. Malo's 12 and he looks up to his older brother Uzi. He follows his brother around because that's the only person he really looks up to, because that's kind of like who raised him throughout the book, since his father's never there and his mother going in and out due to her depression that she's been going through since she was 12. So one day, Uzi decides to go out with a friend of his, and when they come back, the police use a battering ram to break into the house, and they're beating Uzi with sticks, they're beating Malo with sticks, and all of a sudden, he just blacks out. And when he wakes up, his brother is being sent to Arizona by his father Chaka and Uzi's stepfather. And this is where Malo starts to see, that's where he starts to exhibit changes, because he no longer has that idol. So now he's going to look in other places for that person to fill that space. Uzi runs into a young lady who is well endowed, well above her years, and he goes to jail for statutory rape. And Malo finds out that his brother could be in jail for 25 years to life. This is where Malo takes a turn, because now he's alone. And he's trying to find the next thing to his brother. And that is Uzi's friends and 10 G's in a group in the game UPK. So this is where he becomes rebellious, because he begins to lie to his mother about his whereabouts and where he's going and the places and the people he's with. And as you see, I have a quote that tells you why he's going to lie, because he says different people are always coming through and they all know Uzi and I'm his little brother. And if they don't, once they find out, oh, you Uzi's little brother, they show me mad love. basically saying it's okay for him to be out in the streets because he has that street cred. But eventually he'll figure out that it's more than just about you. As he continues to rebel, he begins to steal his mom's car, he runs away, and his relationship with his father and his mother begins to falter even more. Due to the fact that Shaka was okay with the fact that Uzi was in jail and refused to pay his bond. And his mother, due to her depression, she really didn't have a say. She said a little, but she couldn't fight too much because, yes, Shaka, he was the money maker in the house and she didn't have room to say anything about it. And Shaka said, I ain't got no bail money, not a dime, because that's what his father told him as a child. And that's one of the reasons why Mallow really began to resent him. And right at the end of this chapter, he said, so you just gonna let my brother rot in jail? And Shaka was like, he made his bed. If he had more rebellious, his mom thought it would have helped out to take him down to Arizona to see his brother. And she was down there stressing about the situation, like how she spent all her money on a lawyer to bring him home. And she was like, you have to go back to school. And Mallow said, F school. This was the point where Mallow had just given up. He was done fighting. He didn't care about anything but his brother and living the life that he wanted to live. When Mallow and Amir went to get initiated into UPK, it was a turning point because this was like it's now or never. Like once I'm initiated in, there is no going back. And not only when he's getting jumped in, you see a violent streak come out of him. Because as he's being jumped in, towards the end is where he gets extremely violent. He becomes very volatile, and it's like he starts swinging. He just refuses to stop. As he says on page 108, he says, F that, I'm out for blood. To the point where everybody had to pile up on top of him and stop him from fighting. Like he was crying, screaming, like it was like he was fighting for his life. It was like he was fighting for something more than just his safety from being jumped in. It was like he was fighting for his brother's freedom, for him to do what he wanted to do, for him to get his brother. And once he's jumped in, he begins to realize, well, it's just me and my mom. Because his father's like, it's just him and his mom. His mom's depressed. She refuses to do anything. So he decides, he said, hey, he said, styles change, but money stays the same. As long as you have money, you have anything you could ever want. So he's introduced to Bone through Amir. And once he meets Bone, Bone basically puts him on and he decides to start selling drugs. Puts him on. Yeah. It's slang for he is the one who gives Mallow the drugs to sell. And once he actually started selling the drugs is when the money started to make him change even more. Amir is Mallow's best friend. They've known each other since they were kids. And this is where Mallow takes a turn that we didn't expect. Because in the chapter of the Greek, they go to the Greek, which is the neighborhood get together where they go and do all the explicit things that they do. And at the end, Amir is killed in a shootout. And from that point on, you see a change in Mallow because he says, I'm numb to the world. And he also says it feels like he's missing a chunk of his soul, which is like him basically saying, I'll never be the same person. I'll never be who I was without Amir. So it seems like he just continues to take losses. He lost Uzi and now he lost his best friend. So it's kind of like, but it was just him explaining that he's at a point where he can't handle these things the way they should be. So he'll just bottle it up and cover it up with money. And he also takes a change because in this same chapter, he's going through his phone and he's listening to all his voicemails. And he has voicemails from his father asking like, hey, can I come see you? He's deleting them. He has voicemails from Nia. He's deleting them. Another way he's trying to get over Amir's death and Uzi being away, he's sexualizing women because he has voicemails from women that he doesn't know saying like, I knew you were going to hit and quit. Like, I know you were going to have sex with me and then never call me back after that. And it was just an ongoing list of all the things that he was going through. Mallow and his mom, Amina's relationship in chapter 28, Burn, he comes home. Well, his mom comes in and she finds him reading her journal. So that's a turning point for her because she feels like she can no longer trust him. And that's a turning point for him because she throws all his drugs, money, and his gun into an incinerator. So now he no longer has a way to make money. He owes Bone $2,000. And now he's just over the edge because he was like, it's like he took another loss and he just couldn't deal with it. And he told her she was toxic, and he said, now I see why my father left. And it was like the last straw for him and his mom to ever be okay again, because like from that point on, it's like you don't hear from her for like 2 to 3 chapters, like actually like 4 or 5 chapters. So after the death and Mallow and his issue with his mom, his friend Ryan, he runs into some trouble in Philadelphia, and Mallow, being who he is and being in UPK, he feels like I have to protect him because he's one of the few people that I have left. So he calls his cousin Chris, who lives in Fort Worth, Texas, and he says, well, you guys can come down here. So they drive down to Texas, where he ends up talking to his Uncle Howard. And it seems that his Uncle Howard can read him. It's like his aura. He picked up on his aura and he knew there was something heavy on him. So he told him a few stories and he was trying to enlighten him. And it's like, as Mallow listened, he started to pick up on those things. And it was like the author was implying that Mallow was ready to just change. Because he said, it's like he's speaking a foreign language I want to learn. It's like, you're saying things to me that I've never heard before. And I don't know what you mean, but I yearn to change. As a conclusion to everything, it's like, I kind of call him a butterfly. Because he goes through ugly stages and it progresses him to get to a beautiful stage, to where he's made amends with everyone. He's been through many situations that broke him and many situations that made him, and now he's a very intelligent young man who's graduated high school, traveling the world with his father, and everybody that is still in his life, he has wonderful relationships with those people because of the changes that he's made throughout the book.
So you could use a vocabulary word to describe this change.
He went through a metamorphosis.
Okay, good. I like that. Very good. Thank you.
When Uzi gets sent off to Arizona, it really takes a toll on Milo and shapes his character differently. Milo feels empathy for Uzi when he gets arrested for rape. They talk on the phone and have a brief conversation, and you can feel the emotional content throughout the conversation.
Right.
Uzi gets kicked out of Uncle Jabbar's house and hangs on the streets and gets arrested for rape. This makes Milo feel like all the family's weight is on his shoulders. Throughout the book, you can notice that Milo kind of feels pressure and has different feelings and thoughts throughout the book.
That point to him having the weight on his shoulders. I got you.
I didn't have picture evidence for that, but if you read the book, you'll see Milo and his mom brings back the emotional side of Milo. When they get to see Uzi, Milo wants to cry throughout the book, and he does it because he feels like he has to stay strong for his mother, so that he can be there for her throughout the rough time, and he basically cares for her throughout the whole book. That's his relationship with his mother, Amina. Milo and his mother share stories with each other. His mother tells him how Bob, Uzi's dad, treated her. All types of domestic violence. He used to beat her, he used to call her all types of names, and just treat her like trash. And Milo doesn't respect him for that. Uzi looks up to his dad, and he doesn't know how his dad treated his mom. So Milo tries to make sure that his mom is taken care of all throughout the book, in every way.
Even though he does have a moment where he gets angry with her, he still doesn't let that anger stay with him to the point where when she gets sick, that he's like, I'm not gonna.
When she gets sick, he shows unconditional love for her.
That's right.
And he's always there for her, like when she needs him the most. I would venture to say that Milo is his mother's confidant. Milo is his mother's support when Shaka leaves. Shaka storms out as they get into a fight or whatever. They start arguing again because they start to feel for each other all over again or whatever. And they get into a bit of domestic violence and they start to fight or whatever. And Shaka storms towards the door and Milo tries to stop him, but he really can't because he's big. And Milo doesn't have respect for his dad because he leaves and walks out. Basically, he was never there for the family. and he's walking out again, and it really tears Milo apart, which brings back more of the emotional side of Milo. In the book, when things start to go wrong, Milo's mother asks Milo to protect her, and he says he will. He says he tries to comfort her after the breakup, shocking at her after they get into it or whatever. She starts to break down, and basically she's weak, and she just lays in the bed all day and does nothing. And he tries to sit on the bed with her, massage her head, do all types of stuff to comfort his mother, but it really doesn't work. But he's still the moral support for her. Milo and Amir are real close friends from the start of the book. Amir serves as a positive reminder about having a male figure in his life. I don't have textual evidence for that one either.
But tell me about it.
But throughout the book, Milo and his friend Amir, they talk about real family problems that they go through and stuff like that. And Amir basically lets Milo know it's good to have a father, even if he isn't there. At least you know him, because he lives in the same spot as his, same vicinity as his father does, but he's never met with him, and he kind of is there for Milo with that. Getting jumped into UPK, and the reason Milo joins UPK is because Uzi joined UPK when he was younger. And basically that's Milo following in Uzi's footsteps, I guess. Amir and Milo share a close bond. When Milo tries to return the chain to him at the funeral, his mother felt for Milo and Amir's relationship and let him keep it. Don't have textual evidence for that one either, but if you read it, you will see.
Right on, my brother, right on. What did she say to him at the funeral? Do you remember it? Just in general, what she says when he tries to kill her?
She says she thinks that Amir would want him to have it.
Yeah. Can you go back? I'm sorry. From that last bullet, Amir and Milo sharing this close line of the mom telling Milo that she feels Amir would want him to have that chain that he was trying to give her. What can you as a reader infer about that? Or what is Amir's mom implying? Either way you want to answer that, either from an inference standpoint or an implication standpoint.
I can infer that Amir and his mom talk about Milo and Amir's relationship as a whole, and they just knew what it stood collectively.
Okay. And probably had a positive conversation about his relationship with Milo.
Shaka never really loved Amina from the start, really, from what I did.
Why do you do that?
Because he promised her that he would take care of her and her children or whatever, and he really doesn't do it. He's focused more on Afrocentrism. Milo is kind of glad his parents are arguing again because it shows that they care for each other. It shows their bond is still there. Milo and his friends were the Subway Fish Company, and they were trying to crack on John, as they would say. He was trying to talk to this girl and she rejected him. And he saw his friends laughing and he wasn't listening. So he followed her to the bus station. And they met each other and they got a real close relationship or whatever. Real close. They grew a bond and Mia started to change him and try to make him better because she didn't want to date him and he was going to sell drugs and stuff like that. And she looked at him, she was like, he was looking for a model. And she kind of knew on an emotional level that he didn't want to drug like me. So she came up with an ultimatum and told him to see the meat or the drugs. And she chose the drugs over her because it was her plot for his family. Milo went to Crefeld because his mother, when she got back from being sick or whatever, he made a promise to her that he would do school again. And at this school, he really felt weird because he felt like there was a lot of weird people around always felt like an outcast, but when he got in class, it was something different. He started learning from the teachers, and the teachers started to teach him how important words were. And he started to get deep into words. And when they told him to write in his journal, he just didn't know what to say at first, but then at the end, he started writing and wouldn't leave class. The school was closed, and even after he was writing, because he really loved words. Milo started out not taking school serious, kind of brushing to the side. Then he started taking school serious. He started noticing how he really needs it in life, and it would help him get money and stuff like that. And support for his family in a positive way instead of moving to street life. And Milo started to value words because at first he was cussing and stuff like that, and then he stopped cussing because he felt like it was basically demoralizing his culture and his people, and it wasn't good. It wasn't something that he wanted to do, and it wasn't an image that he wanted to give off. Milo still looks such a Uzi because he gets that people make mistakes, even if his hero, which is Uzi. And when they saw each other at the court date, Milo looked at Uzi or whatever, and they kind of connected, I guess, looking at each other. Basically reassured each other that they still had that bond or whatever. And Milo just was such a movie overall. He just that people make mistakes. He still feels like Uzi is basically the gift of his life. Because through Uzi's mistakes, Milo learned how to mature.